There it is, okay. This is the February 13th regular meeting of the Palo Alto Unified School District Board of Education. The board met in closed session, and voted in Student versus Palo Alto Unified School District OAH case number 202-308-0652. The board voted unanimously to enter into a settlement agreement, including payment of $247,500 for reimbursement for student and attorney's fees in exchange for release of all past claims against the district. And in Student versus Palo Alto Unified School District OAH case number 202-308-0653, the board voted unanimously to enter into a settlement agreement, including payment of $247,500 for reimbursement for a student and attorney's fees in exchange for release of all past claims against the district. We will now start open session. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda order?
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Okay, let's vote. Student board member, preferential vote. Aye. Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, agenda order is approved. Now we can move on to student board member reports.
I will be going first today, and it's a little bit of a long one, but there's been a lot going on at Gunn recently. To start off, seniors have been selling senior grams. So on campus, you'll see seniors with pink and red balloons. Students can either buy a card, and a bag of Hershey Kisses, or a card, a bag of kisses, and a Pop-It toy for a friend or significant other, and the raised money will go toward end-of-year senior activities, including prom. Elimination has also been happening at Gunn for the past few weeks. So on January 29th, 691 Gunn students, which is the most we've ever had, eagerly logged on to a website created by Web Tech Commissioner Senior Dylan Liu to see their elimination targets. This year marked the 7th annual game of Gunn's take on Senior Assassin, and in elimination, players must tag their assigned targets with stuffed animals to eliminate them. As the game progresses, players need to follow specific rules for staying safe and eliminating others. So recently, players needed to be wearing jorts or needed to have their jeans rolled up to stay in the game. And tomorrow, in honor of Valentine's Day, after you eliminate your target, you have to give them a rose. Last Friday, during lunch, SEC collaborated with various clubs to host the annual Lunar New Year celebration on our senior quad. We had festive music, and students were able to participate in traditional calligraphy and fan painting, or guess riddles from red and yellow lanterns that hung from the P building balcony. This year, we implemented a new reward system that required participants to visit each station and collect stamps in order to win Chinese New Year candy. We had great turnout this year, and as someone who moved from an area where we don't have these types of cultural events, it's just super cool that we get to celebrate them. Shout out to Co-Diversity Commissioner Nia Porter for leading the organization. This week, we have Love Week. So yesterday, we handed out our Matchmatics, where students take a survey and then the algorithm pairs people up based on similar interests, likes, and styles. Today, we had a Valentine's Fair at the N building with clubs, and then tomorrow for Valentine's Day, we'll be having a marriage ceremony or fake marriage ceremonies on the quad, where students can come, pose in front of a flower arc, and marry their friends. And then finally, on Thursday, we'll be having Gunn Sidelands, where we get to feature a bunch of student music groups. February is also Black History Month, and our diversity commissioners and SEC as a whole has been working on that as well. So if you go around campus, teachers have little cards up in their classrooms showing their commitment to teaching Black history in their classrooms. We also have performances and speaker panels lined up for the rest of the month, so lots to look forward to there. Moving on to sports, Gunn Wrestling had their senior night against Pali on Wednesday, January 31st. In Bow Gym, our team lost to Pali 67-18, but it was still a great way to celebrate our seniors. We also had the second Gunn Pali basketball game. So if you recall, Gunn lost the first one on January 13th, but our boys varsity basketball team packed it up and delivered a nail-biting victory at last weekend's game at Pali. The game stretched out into overtime, and the finishing score was 65-63. Shout out to point guard senior Ethan Kitch, who was nominated for the second time for the Mercury News' Athlete of the Week for his performance during that game. On Thursday, February 8th, Gunn community members gathered at the field to cheer on the boys varsity soccer team on their senior night against Fremont. They lost 1-0 in the end, but Gunn held Fremont off for most of the game. And then today, boys and girls basketball senior night is happening today, and then girls soccer senior night is happening tomorrow. Finally, for just some miscellaneous things that have been happening at Gun, on January 22nd, TEDx Gun High School Club hosted its 14th annual conference in Spangenberg. The student-run event featured 10 speakers, club performances, audience activities, and student and TED-produced short films. This year's theme was a closer look, and speakers delved into topics ranging from the joy of puzzle solving to the ins and outs of investigative journalism. That same weekend, from January 27th to 28th, United Computations Club held their 10th annual 24-hour hackathon, Gun Hacks in the Library. Over 100 students from Gun and Pali signed up to create group coding projects within the 24-hour time frame. Throughout the event, the club held various activities and workshops. I don't want to feed into any stereotypes, but I have heard from a lot of people that at the end of the 24 hours, the library did not smell so great. We had our elective and club fair the week after that. So our electives fair was on January 31st, where teachers and students tabled in Bo Gym to court prospective students, whether it was for video production classes, student council, or English electives that all of our juniors take. Then on Thursday and Friday, we had our club fair, where 80+ clubs were showcased. Both of the events usually take place on the quad, but we moved them indoors because of the rain, and luckily everything still went well. On Wednesday and Thursday last week, the Gun Choir Staff musical, And Then There Were Nuns, delighted audiences in Spangenberg Theater. Every year, choir teachers Bill Liberator and Angelina Fitu put on a show with high school and middle school choir students, along with Gun staff members. The show this year combined elements from Sister Act, The Wizard of Oz, and a chorus line. Sophomore Milka Morrison was an amazing lead, and thanks to everyone who made the shows happen, since the revenue goes towards supporting Gun's choir program. Last Friday, the new Oracle came out. I'm wearing my Oracle merch today. This is our first full-color issue, so it's really, really exciting. It has stories ranging from Gun's new See Something, Say Something initiative, which Gun admin has implemented to target discrimination, to features on students' hair care, to a games page that everyone always flips to first. And then coming up, election signups are now officially open for people who may be interested in joining ASB. I'm on the elections team, and it's very weird because I feel like I've just gotten here and I haven't even been to 10 of these meetings, and we're already looking for my replacement. Next week, the Spikeball tournament is happening, and then at the end of that week, we'll be having our spring sports rally where we showcase our spring sports teams. And then on the week of the 28th, we'll be having state testing. So last year, juniors finally met the 95% participation threshold, and this year's juniors class officers are working hard to make sure that happens again this year. That's all I have for today.
Following up on that, which will be hard shoes to fill, I'll keep it short because I think Chris covered a lot of the ground, especially with the Polygon games. So starting off with student life and some student government stuff, we've also had Love Week because yes, Valentine's Day happens on the same time for both schools, shockingly. We had mathematics, a bunch of fun events. Rain put a damper onto some of those events, but we were really impressed by a lot of people's initiative and fluidity in their ability to transition to a lot of like indoors events and being able to survive the inclement weather. Upcoming, we also have Pali's Got Talent. All students, parents, staff, basically everyone, all are invited, highly encouraged to attend. It's gonna be super fun, food provided, it's free. Spend a night there just watching some fun people show off all of their talents. And we got things ranging from like mental math to like juggling, all these things that I did not know were even possible. Tons of fun. I really hope to see all of you guys there. We had the prom reveal rally. We also had the staff versus seniors basketball game at the same time. A buzzer beater 3-point shot created the first time these seniors have won the senior staff basketball games in over 10 years. This has been overcoming a significant amount of rigging. I didn't say that. Moving on to the prom reveal specific part, we're having our prom at Gilroy Gardens. Super credit to all of the prom planning committee who've been putting a ton of work into making sure this is as great an experience as possible and making sure as many people can attend and have a good time. In Vapa, we had the Pali dance team started their competition season 2 weeks ago. They're heading to regionals in a couple of days. Choir had their Pops concert. They titled it Makeup Breakup, about the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, also referencing the notes they were able to hit, which were pretty shocking. In some of the other activities we've had at school, the debate team had a pretty incredible, historic performance at the Stanford tournament last weekend. A few of the highlights: two Pally debaters, Kashi Juteja and Emily Zhang, co-championed in Lincoln Douglas debate, making history and putting Pally at the top. For those of you who aren't as involved or never really heard of debate, that basically means we were so dominant at the tournament that the final round in Lincoln Douglas would have been a Pally debater versus another Pally debater because we knocked all the other schools out. Pally speech team's Marcus Ling placed both second and fifth place in two separate events. We had a great showing, great time. This all comes on the heels of Pally speech and debates pretty meteoric growth to the largest extracurricular activity in all of Pally. I've been part of it for 3 years now. It's been a really incredible experience for me. We have over 175 members who've shown the same feelings. And we're also, despite being this big tent, no tryouts, no cut team, we're also the 5th best speech and debate team in the state and 42nd in the country. In other club news, our Black Student Union passed out vignettes and beaded necklaces for Mardi Gras as we're celebrating Black History Month. Wrestling came third in the CCS North Division tournament. 9 students have made it to CCS championships. If they keep on doing well, hopefully we'll see as many of them as states as we can see. In some other news, SJP had their C-SPAN project presentations. We created the wall of rejection. There's been a bit of back and forth around that, whether it be the wall of rejection, wall of redirection. There have been concerns about rejection, the focus on that negativity, but we students have always seen it as a way to reduce the isolation and stress around college admissions and really make it a less isolating thing, because realistically everyone's in the same boat. You know, as a junior, I'm really thankful that I don't have to deal with it yet, and I get to learn from seniors like Chris who have gone through it ahead of me, and it's really incredible to see the Pally community coming together around this. That's about all I have for you guys today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Dr. Austin, Superintendent of Schools report.
All right. Well, we're going to start with a message from a student. We have Sufi from Fair Meadow who's got our message for the night to get us started.
Miss Saunders tells us what to do and in a nice way. All the teachers are really nice. The games that we play are really fun. We also have noon sports, so we play games. One of the subjects I really like is art. Our art teacher, Miss Lakey, is really nice and helps us paint. Someone I want to say thank you to is Miss Saunders, because she helped teach me how to be physically active. Going to school makes me feel happy. I feel lucky to go to Fair Meadow.
Those are always great starts. Chris, I just took a note during your report. It's a fun topic, but for the event that you're going to host, you said people get to marry their friends, and I would just say that should be a life goal for everyone. Marry your buddies. I married mine 30 years ago. She's still my buddy. And she's watching tonight, and this is her Valentine's Day present, so there. Check that box. I hope my kids are watching too. Learn a lesson. Yeah, there's a reason why it's been 30 years, right? I wanted to thank our CSEA president, Meb Steiner, for not having a meeting with me. There's an actual story here. Meb, our CSEA president, and I meet. Oh, is she back there? Right on, Meb. Oh, I'm going to tell a story about me and you, Meb. Meb and I meet just like I meet with Terry Baldwin from PAEA, and Meb came over and said, well, it's a shame we have to have our meeting right now. The Futures Dance is happening over at Pally. It's the regional dance, and we're bringing in students from all over the area to have this lunchtime dance. And we kind of looked at each other and said, yeah, let's go do that instead. Now, what I didn't know is Meb was going to grab me and say, we're dancing now. which we did, and Meb, I would say there's video proof. We were pretty amazing. Yeah, we have the proof. But seriously, well, you can't have a bad day if you go in and you see kids dancing and jumping around like nobody's watching and they're just being there. And the adults that are in that room are some of the absolute most special people that we have. And, you know, Meb, I want to thank you for that reminder to not miss those opportunities, but I also want to thank every adult, every parent who trusts us with kids, kids with special needs. I can't imagine what that feels like each day to say, wow, this, you know, do I trust to send my kids? Are they going to have a good day? Are they going to have a good experience? And to get there and see that day was awesome. Just reminds you of things that really matter. And my third piece right now, partially just because I saw her sitting in the front row, it will be lost on the consent agenda, which is coming up. But tonight you will be approving Emily Garrison as the first principal of Middle College, our third high school in the district. No small feat, and I'd like to just say congratulations to you, Emily. You earned it. And that's all for me.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the staff report section of our agenda. PAUSD Promise Equity Update for Ellen Fletcher Middle School.
All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight, we feature the amazing Fletcher Middle School for the routine site equity update. Principal Melissa Howell is here with her awesome team to share a few insights regarding their commitment to equity and belonging. And there is no doubt that you will hear and feel their enthusiasm for the work with this team. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ms. Howell. And Ms. Howell, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you, Lana, and thank you, board. Good evening, my name is Melissa Howell, principal at Ellen Fletcher Middle School. I'm excited to share Fletcher's equity update with you this evening. Tonight, we will be sharing a few of the many great things about Fletcher. I'm so thankful for the hardworking Fletcher staff. It's with great pride I'd like to introduce our team of outstanding educators who will be sharing our journey with you this evening. We have Tanner Ziegelman, reading TOSA, Kristen Lee, teacher librarian, Jessamy McKinney, ed specialist, Kevin Rouse, administrative TOSA, and Jane Jug, assistant principal.
All right, so many of you likely know what team teaching is, but you might be wondering why it takes place in social studies at Fletcher. And is this better? Lift it up. All right. So like I was saying, many of you know what team teaching is, but you might be wondering, why is this taking place in social studies at Fletcher? And the reason is because we have two social studies teachers, Tristan Janani and Nicole Bliss, who observed that there was a population of students who were struggling, and many of that population were historically underrepresented. They were struggling with the complexity and amount of reading and writing in the social studies class. Part of our determination of who would actually benefit most for that team taught class was looking at iReady data, CASP data, as well as teacher feedback. These teachers then use the Reading Apprenticeship Framework to create a class where they're consistently reviewing their students' data, formative assessments, and the goal for the class, is that they're spending a significant amount of time progress monitoring and reteaching to ensure students can access grade level curriculum. And you can see in our iReady data that the number of students who were 2 or more years below grade level in August compared to now has decreased. But what is even more impressive to me is I've had the benefit of being in that classroom, and many of the students who I worked with in 6th grade were frequently struggling, sometimes in tears, and now they're in these classes engaging with complex historical documents, and they are very confident in doing so, and that's due to the work of Ms. Janani, Ms. Bliss, and Ms. Blockus. And with that said, I will pass things off to our librarian, Ms. Lee.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Lee. I am Fletcher's teacher librarian. I first started teaching in PAUSD in 1989, and I had taught at 5 of our elementary schools before landing this wonderful job. The work that is on this slide summarizes the most rewarding project that I have undertaken in my many years in this district, and it explains the important work of the first diversity audit that the PAUSD secondary teacher librarians undertook in 2021 and 2022. This powerful work was the result of, one, Lana Conway funding the training, school administrators supporting attendance at the training, and PAUSD teacher librarians undertaking the hard but necessary auditing work. The result is that every day, our students can see mirrors, windows, and sliding doors reflected in our collection and ready for them to discover. The amazing circulation statistics that you can see from the first 9 days of 2022 speak for themselves. Finally, projects like the Fletcher Library Diversity Audit are possible because the PAUSD Board of Education has invested in teacher librarians in every one of our 17 schools, compared to the California state average of 1 teacher librarian for every 9,667 students. California is in last place in the 48 contiguous states. Thank you to PAUSD and our Board of Education.
Hi, Jessamy McKinney, Therapeutic Ed Specialist at Fletcher. Thank you for having us. So I have the privilege of being a part of the Equity and Excellence team, which has been really fun. I was part of it last year and now this year. And as a part of incorporating this into Fletcher's community, we brought this rubric, the equity rubric that was created through our team. And we said to the staff, hey, we need to pick something to focus on because it starts with having that focus in your heart. And then we work together to join in intersectional groups, meaning they're groups of different types of teachers, to say, hey, what is it looking like to have equity and inequity in your classroom? Let's reflect on that together. What's going well for you and what's a struggle? And then we work together to bring some of those ideas back to our classrooms to try to make it more successful. And we kept an equity log. And then that's kind of transferred into some of the data we're going to talk about and some of the exciting new projects that we have. So here's Kevin to talk more about that.
Thank you. Kevin Rouse, Administrative TOSA at Fletcher. So based on panorama data that was collected in the fall of this year, 23-24, the Fletcher staff has decided to focus on student and staff belonging. So 3 of the belonging survey questions and their results are displayed here. The results for the first question, which is how well do people understand you as a person, show that 58% of those that answered favorably, understand me quite a bit and understand me completely. The second question, question 3 that's up there, the results show, the question, how much respect do students have in your school show you, showed that 63% of those that answered favorably, quite a bit of respect and a tremendous amount of respect. And the third question, question 4 from the panorama survey, how much do you matter to others at the school, showed that 51% of those that also answered favorably, saying matter quite a bit and matter a tremendous amount. While these results show a large percentage of our students feel understood, respected, and that they matter, the remaining 40 to 50% do not. And that's the challenge. The challenge of ensuring that those students feel like and continue to feel like they belong at Fletcher Middle School is the challenge that the Fletcher staff plans on taking on next. And you're going to hear about how.
Yeah, so how are we going to do this? We had one more data slide. That was the last question he talked about. But we have this excellent idea, well, we think it's excellent, where we're using that panorama data and some of the discussions, those rich discussions that we had last year, to focus on how do we develop common language focused on common expectations and equity. So we're gonna focus on tiger pride, using some of those words that we need to focus on: perseverance, restoration, inclusion, determination, equity. And we're gonna put these posters throughout the school. They're gonna be in classrooms, bathrooms, other places. And we've even written a little rap, and the kids are very excited to be able to share this with our staff. So we're hoping that once we have these all throughout the school, it'll create that sense of community and equity that we need to develop at Fletcher. So thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jane Jung, Assistant Principal of Fletcher. Honorable board members, Superintendent Austin, Executive Cabinet, colleagues, community members. Just on behalf of Ellen Fletcher, I'd like to thank you again for your time and attention. We are off to a great start at our site, and we are just committed to growing, and we have a lot to learn. So we are going to seek your guidance and wisdom as we are committed to closing the opportunity gap. So I'd like to thank you again for your time. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments? Let me just check. Yes, looks like we have one public comment. Stephen Davis.
Good evening. Thank you for the presentation. Unfortunately, there were no details or meaningful mention of students with disabilities during the presentation. There was no breakout of detailed data for various differentiated and priority groups for tracking of equity issues to show differences with their peers or changes from last year, making it difficult to see progress. While it is important for each school to have its own focus, hopefully next year a common set of metrics will be put in place to provide a more coherent picture across the district. For your information, there were 9 Fletcher suspensions, with 4 of them being students with disabilities and 3 of them being Hispanic students, even though they represent 13.3% of the population and 16.5% of the population. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. All right, let's move on to board member comments, colleagues. Ms. Siegel.
I just want to thank and acknowledge the participation. There are 5, I believe, Fletcher teachers and staff in the Equity and Alliance, and I've had the privilege of working with some of the members of the Fletcher team at our monthly Equity and Excellence meetings. And I just want to look at you again and say that I continue to be inspired by your hard work, your dedication, your passion, and your advocacy. Every time I've gotten to work with the Fletcher group, I leave feeling really optimistic about our future, and I see the extremely focused, swift plan work. So thank you for your work, and just want to thank librarian Kristen Lee for your over 30 years. I did not realize that in our district. I think that deserves a round of applause. So, and also thank you for bringing all that you've learned to all the librarians in the district, because what we know is that sharing and implementing best practices is key to structural and systemic change. So thank you for bringing that to all the librarians. That is all.
Just a quick thank you for your work. I think one of the things I really like about each of these presentations is that obviously there's a lot of work going on, and they pick a little snippet of it, right? A little sliver of some of the work that they're doing and elevate that. And it's really interesting to see what each school picks and what you're bringing forward to us. So thank you for your work. Thank you for being here tonight to present. And thanks to the whole Fletcher staff.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge, I think Fletcher has been one of the schools that's sort of been, paving the way on the equity work for a while. And as we've tried from the district level to initiate sort of top-down programs, and that movement has come from Fletcher, I think, for a long time, especially within the libraries. So I just want to acknowledge and thank all of you for the presentation and your continuing work in the district.
Student board members, anything? Okay. All right, I echo my colleagues' thanks for being here tonight, and thank you for all the work that you all are doing. Okay, we can move on to PAUSD Promise. Every student reads Initiative Progress Indicator 3, iReady Diagnostic Reading, Mid-Year Checkpoint.
I'm going to turn.
And Annual Dyslexia Progress Report.
Yes.
Don't want to forget that.
That is not a tag along, that's an important piece, so thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Brown here in 1 second, but before I do, sometimes we used to joke, in case you're not sure, let us tell you what the headline is. And I'll tell you, you will have the headline in the first 30 seconds of Ms. Reynolds' presentation tonight. There's a lot of information, there's one headline, and you're going to hear it, but I'm so proud of the work that everyone is doing, and we're back out in school sites looking specifically at classroom instruction. everyone who has any role in this work is out doing those observations and speaking with teachers. I've been out with Dr. Bickle just recently, and what we're seeing in classroom is no surprise. We're seeing people with great results are so professional. They're so prepared. They're learning and moving along. You're going to see tonight not only things that we've done that we should be happy about, but things that we're doing and are seen in the horizon that are going to continue this work. This should be something this board and everyone involved should be so proud of. And you know, look, it's not all going to be roses every day, and we're going to have some leaps and we're going to have some plateaus. But this is work that no other district in this state could present what we're going to talk about again tonight. And I just don't want that to be lost on the group as we look at, you know, this cycle of continuous improvement. There's a time to also take a breath and say, everybody would trade seats with us if they could. So with that, I set a pretty low bar there for the group. So,
Thank you, Dr. Austin.
Ms. Brown, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Austin. Good evening, trustees. Tonight we share our mid-year iReady formative reading assessment results and the K-3 dyslexia marker screener data. And the really good, not yet. The really good part might be 30 seconds out, but you may have noticed in reviewing the report that data for tonight that our students are progressing well, but at a different pace than we had hoped. We have made less than a half year's progress so far towards our end of the year goal in most of our ESRI student groups. You'll see later in the presentation that the sense of urgency drives our work for the remainder of the year to ensure students reach their goal by the end of the year. So our team decided to look at the iReady data for one particular comparison. We wanted to know how the students who scored below grade level at the start of using iReady a year and a half ago, how are they doing towards progress of grade level? So Mr. Moore looked just at this data and made the following slide. Now, there we go. In the fall of 2022, 970 students were below grade level. Of these same students, 528 or 54% of these students are now on or above grade level in a year and a half. This progress is phenomenal and reassuring that we are doing the right work. Ms. Reynolds will now continue our report with more specifics from this year's administrations of both the iReady and the dyslexia screener. Ms. Reynolds?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Good evening, Dr. Austin. Good evening, board members. It's great to be here tonight and share with you our winter report. As you know, the iReady Reading Diagnostic provides each student's reading proficiency toward meeting the grade level end-of-year standards. Here are the winter administration results for all kindergarten through 5th grade students by race or ethnicity, and it includes the number of students in each proficiency band. Here are the results for our ESRI group of students, including their numbers within each proficiency band at meeting the end-of-year standards in reading. This table shows the percentage of students reading on or above grade level at each iReady administration, starting with fall 2022, which was our first year implementing this assessment. The final column is our 3% spring goal that we are working very hard to reach with the remainder of the school year. As Ms. Brown stated, to meet this 3% goal increase in spring 2024, our teams must reflect on the instructional practices implemented from fall to winter and make adjustments this spring as we move through the remainder of the school year. Educators can utilize tools such as this diagnostic along with local assessments to determine the specific needs that students have and the skills that need to be developed by our teachers. And they can grow their students' reading proficiency. And our teachers can also become clear on what our students need and how the instruction needs to be delivered moving forward. Part of this work is through our Elementary Principals Collaborative, which happens monthly. And here you can see a photo of our elementary principals last month working with an iReady facilitator to understand student growth and ways that they can best support teachers in moving forward and getting all students on or above grade level, helping them understand the growth data and ways that teachers can analyze student results to provide effective instruction. We also are working with teachers, grades TK through 5, as we're really proud that all teachers now have been trained in the Orton-Gillingham methodology or in OG morphology for grades 4 and 5. And this is really pivotal in our work in supporting students with reading difficulties, students with markers for dyslexia, and our students with dyslexia. This important foundational skills instruction is making a difference. And with year 2 of our structured literacy approach with Benchmark Advance, we are having multiple areas of data points to inform instruction. Principals are also providing teachers with opportunities to learn from each other as they navigate these shifts in practice. We're also very proud that we've trained 20 instructional assistants who are working in both our general education and our special education classrooms. These instructional assistants will be able to provide high-quality support of our students with the OG methodology after they've received strong instruction from classroom teachers. So then they can practice their encoding and their decoding with our trained instructional assistants. Really excited about this, and we will continue to have our instructional assistants trained moving forward to support our work. And then this March, we're very happy that we will have an educator, PAUSD educator-led professional learning day in literacy. We have a teacher actually 2 teachers who are really well-versed in how the brain learns to read, who will lead an opening session for our teachers. And because we've received feedback from teachers that they'd like to learn from each other, we have teachers with really deep knowledge and strong results in pedagogy, providing sessions and demonstration lessons for our teachers and providing opportunities for them to collaborate during this half day on reading. The other half will be on math. So PAUSD has been leading the state in providing a universal screener for dyslexia markers for several years. And we are in year 2 of using the iReady diagnostic assessment to determine which of our K-3 students have markers for dyslexia. You can see the number of students identified with dyslexia markers in winter 23 and winter 2024. And many of the students identified actually have IEPs for reading. And so it's important for you to also note that these listed here are the specific next steps that our reading specialists take to support students who come up with dyslexia markers, as well as utilizing the attachment which has our flow chart of the process as well. Gives you more information about identification and the steps that we take. It's important also to recognize that this is not a dyslexia determination. Rather, it's giving us information about students who may struggle, who need either intervention in class provided by teachers or intervention provided by a reading specialist or ed specialists. And iReady gives us specific information about what next steps we might need to take. And so I think that Ms. Brown.
Yes, thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
Reynolds. All right, our urgency is heightened, and our highly trained teachers, principals, and instructional assistants are engaging in the work necessary to support students in reaching the goals in these last 3.5 months of school. Parents are receiving their mid-year iReady family report that shares each child's strength and focus for continued improvement. Principals and teachers are diving deeper into the data and discussing the instructional practices needed to support student growth. And we look forward to sharing the final progress indicator number 3 report in June. So we can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me see. I think we had one public comment on this. Yes, Mr. Davis.
Thank you all for this excellent work and analysis and report. I don't know if anyone else does. I read it all. I'm sure other people do, but I really appreciate it. And I'm sorry, my comments are going to jump around because they're referring to like all of the documents. One, it may be helpful to look at intersections of disability with other groups, such as English learners, Hispanic students, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. I noticed we did that for, I think, Hispanic and socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and it might be interesting to look at the data for students with disabilities, see if those are struggling in those intersections. Two, it would be good to see the median growth data for students with disability over time, just as we did with Hispanic students. Three, it was mentioned that students with disabilities are included in the dyslexia screening. I didn't see any data that called them out, like how many of the students did have IEPs that were picked up in the dyslexia marker screening. On ESRI Progress Indicator 3, is there a hypothesis why students with disabilities are backsliding slightly from this year to last? I don't think it necessarily statistically significant, but they are the only group that is backsliding at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Okay, colleagues, any comments? Who wants to start? I'm sure there's comments. You? Go ahead. Nobody's volunteering.
Thank you for the presentation and keep up the great work. I just wanted to add that it's really wonderful that the district is offering internal PD, as oftentimes teachers find it most beneficial to work with and learn from teachers within our own district who thus share the same curriculum and populations. So I was really happy to see that that's what we are doing. And then in terms of the PD, in addition to staff development days, please let us know if there are any other ways that we can help to make internal teacher-led PD happen throughout the year, because I believe it's very beneficial. That was all. Thank you.
Mr. Collins? Don't everybody talk at once. Okay, Mr. Trump.
I don't want to take some of the comments you were going to make, but I'm going to. No, we talked about it. I just wanted to make one comment, which is a year ago, we heard from community members after a presentation, and there was criticism about the fact that we were applauding the results because we were applauding results that were cross-sectional data. And the point was made, very, I think, smartly, because it was made by me, that the point was made, exhibiting great wisdom, that cross-sectional data is no less valid than longitudinal data. It just shows us something else, but that I hoped that because we put our faith in the right team, we would be seeing that longitudinal data at some point in the future, and it would bear out the same results, and it has. So that's not to say I told you so, but it is to say that I think we're heading in the right direction, and I'm very, very happy with the direction that the team has gone in. And it's really great to be able to, to be able to predict something and hope for something and for it to bear out and the data to bear it out. So, I commented to Dr. Austin this morning that I looked at this report and I noted that piece and I looked at it. I said, yeah, this looks great. This looks great. And I realized that I have sort of gotten desensitized to good news on the reading front. Because if we had looked at this a year ago or 2 years ago or any other time that I've been on the board, it would have been like, so all that to say, great job. And thank you for the presentation.
Ms. DeBrand.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. There's a lot of really encouraging news in there, right? We always mention that for decades, we have to close this achievement gap. And we really didn't make any significant progress, and we're really making significant progress. I don't know if you're going to meet your percentages. I hope that you are. I look forward to seeing it. But a couple of things. I actually had a similar thought as Mr. Davis had. We've gotten in this habit of looking at a subgroup, and then Latinx and SED together, like, a little collab. And I'm just curious about other ones, right? Like if we're going to look at that one, maybe there are other ones that are significant. So, not to add and make a really long list, but I think looking at, say, students with disabilities and seeing what the crossover is, right, with the intersection there is, could just be really informative in helping us to understand why some numbers are moving more than others. The dyslexia markers is interesting to me. The number seems kind of low. And I don't think this is a question you can answer now, although heck, if you want to, go ahead. Maybe you've all thought of this too. But I've just been thinking about why that might be, right? Are we possibly masking some of the dyslexia with the work that we're doing? Are we remediating some of the dyslexia, right, the remediation that needs to be done? I'm just curious about it. So I can't imagine you have an answer for that right here and now, but. Yeah, great. Is there a question? Do you?
There you go.
Right? I know.
That'll
that.
go.
So I'm curious about it. I don't know.
I can take the first part.
Yeah.
Okay, the first part, once you start adding the cross sections for the groups, the in size gets too small. That's why you don't see it.
Yeah.
So if we say, an ethnicity piece and then put a special ed layer on top of it, we won't have samples that are large enough. That's why you see it that way.
Well, based on the numbers that we just saw on that chart, I expect that we would, but yeah, you guys, and I don't mean bring it here for presentation. I mean just looking at yourselves for your own info, right?
I think
don't
we
need
can
to see it.
I think we can do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would pass the test to bring forward.
Yeah, I don't need to see it. I just think it might be interesting for you to see it.
The second part's a much more complicated question, and although our team may be in a position to respond, I'd like us to get together and have a really thoughtful response coming back about the markers.
Yeah, I mean, it's more curiosity than anything. And finally, just my last thought is like, this is hard work, right? We've said for decades we didn't make a whole lot of progress here. We are making progress. Our teachers, all our staff are working so hard. Our students are working so hard. There are new experiences they're having in the classroom. We have come to really understand the influence of culture and climate in how students are doing. So we're paying attention to that too. Our staff is paying attention to that and working on what their culture and climate are in their classroom, their biases, the frames they take, their experiences, as well as learning new curricula. So I just want to acknowledge that like everyone's working really hard and we're seeing tons of progress, but it's not like we were going to make some changes and then boom, every student and every teacher would be like 100% there, right? It takes a long time to do this work. And so I like the direction that we're going. The effort is unparalleled. And I'm really grateful to every teacher, every parent, every student, every administrator doing this work. It's really nice to feel like you're all making a difference, right? Everyone works so hard in a school district anyway. And for a long time, everyone worked hard and didn't see us closing that achievement gap. And now to start to see that difference, I think is just thank you all very much.
Student board members?
I actually remember the whole longitudinal cross-sectional conversation we had a while back. I think that was one of my earlier board meetings, and it was something to do with math progress. And at that meeting, I made a comment. I think it went something along the lines of, numbers are numbers, growth is good. Great job, guys. I kind of want to echo that, and also add a little bit. And I've also made comments like over the course of my term on the board so far about like data and numbers and making sure all that is like visible, transparent, so people can go up and see it. And I want to give credit where credit is due. All the numbers are here. Everything looks good. It's rigorous. We don't hear anyone questioning whether it's cross-sectional, longitudinal, and whether we have the right statisticians actually doing this math. So yeah, I just want to say thank you for creating a clear, transparent picture for everyone.
Thank you. I just want to add to my colleagues. Yes, Mr. Trapp and I were just talking about how we finally have, I mean, we're joking about longitudinal data, but the point is we didn't have the data. We didn't have the years of the initiative and the years of the iReady data to do that analysis, and now we do. And so I'm very happy that we can do it now, and I think that the 54% improvement in 1 year is really, I mean, teachers can only do so much in 1 year. I think it's pretty hard to imagine them doing more than that. That's truly exceptional. And I think that when we first started this initiative, the idea of getting all students to grade level felt like a impossible pipe dream. And when I look at that, I recognize, okay, that 46% that's remaining, those may be the harder cases, but it doesn't feel like a pipe dream anymore. It feels like a reach goal. to use that kind of language. It doesn't feel like a pipe dream anymore, and that's incredibly impressive. And I also just wanted to say I appreciate you warning us that you might not make the goal by the end of the year, but I also just want to say I think you might be being a little too hard on yourselves. And the point that I want to make is what I noticed is that the percentage of students that are on or above grade level at this winter tracks almost exactly with last winter. And some of those beginning of the year baselines started a little better this year, and some of them started a little worse, but all the groups got to almost exactly the same place this winter as last year. And so, to me, this goes to the longitudinal improvements point. Like I said, teachers can only do so much in 1 year, and if those beginning of the year baselines aren't increasing from year to year, I think it may be too much to expect of everyone for those end of the year numbers to increase more. And so that really speaks to the importance of the longitudinal improvements. Now, obviously, this initiative, right, focuses on third grade. So when we're looking at beginning of the year, we're looking at second graders who coming in to be third graders now who weren't in the pilot. But the ultimate goal of this initiative is to transform literacy education across all grade levels, every classroom in our district. And so that's really the key, is scaling up what's working and learning, like Ms. Siegel said, from our teachers who are doing this extraordinarily well. And we know we have those. We know we have those outliers. And so I love that it seemed clear to me from the staff presentation that that's the focus right now, is you're looking at those outliers and you're figuring out what they're doing that's so exceptional that they can teach everybody else. So thank you. I realize you're just starting on this analysis. And again, I don't want you to put you on the spot, but if there was ever at any point, even just offline, but I think maybe the public might have some interest in knowing too, just what are there patterns, are there commonalities among those outlier teachers and classrooms that we can learn from. I'd love personally to know that information. So thank you so much. Please pass on my appreciation and gratitude and just awe of our teachers who are doing this. Thank you. Now we can move on to SWIFT report card update.
Ms. Conaway, why don't you go ahead and take it away?
Okay, thank you. This report that I'm presenting tonight is the school climate portion of the SWIFT report card, which highlights the student perceptions of the general school climate and additional measures as we measure by the Panorama Survey, as well as the chronic absenteeism data, which we believe is connected to academic engagement in general. In your board packet, you have a summary of the data for all students on all measures of the school climate, for those of you with an expansive attention span. And for a shorter report is also included that disaggregates by demographics. But tonight, we will be presenting the shortest, you're welcome, version, which is the adopted SWIFT report card that we will be covering tonight. So what you see on the screen there is our easy arrow up, arrow down, and our 3 color versions of progress. As you recall, green indicates progress, which is an increase in 3 points or higher. Blue is fairly maintained. That means that there has been no increase or decrease greater than 3. And the red down arrow indicates that there was a decline in 3. And as you can see from the quick data you see there is that we are still struggling in areas of absenteeism. More concerning is that we're struggling with our youngest learners. And obviously, we know that if our learners are not in seat, we cannot teach them reading or anything else. So that's a significant concern for us, and it's something that our team will be working on as we move forward. But the good news is that we're seeing climate in general, particularly at the secondary level, is improving. It's not a massive improvement that we're seeing there, but massive effort is going into making sure that we continue to move in the right direction. We saw a little bit less of an improvement at the elementary level, but please note we didn't backslide. We are maintaining, but we also don't believe that that maintenance is enough. Our goal is to increase at every reporting period. Overall, I will say that we are generally doing okay with the exception of chronic absenteeism, but we still have a lot of work to do moving forward. And I will leave it at that and then open the floor for questions.
Thank you. I don't believe, yeah, we don't have any public comments. We can move right to colleagues. Anyone? No, but I don't.
He says he does.
Am I missing a card? Sorry. Just come talk to us after. Oh, yeah, just come, it's okay. Just come talk.
Two real quick things in the report card. There was no data provided for students with disabilities for 6th to 8th grade on student climate. I don't know if they just got dropped off. And as was raised in the presentation, when are we going to talk about, with some attention, the chronic absenteeism, particularly for students with disabilities? And I guess it's even clustered within elementary school as a separate item. That's not a new issue, but seems to be lingering. And now, actually, I would like to make a big request of the board and the district. As someone who goes to a lot of these meetings, I have been super impressed by the progress on SWIFT, Esri, and dyslexia over the last 2 years. It's been, from the cheap seats, really impressive. I would ask that the board and the district collaborate together to first lock this in policy so this persists in case of willful changes or willful neglect. And then 2, that Palo Alto take a leadership position in the state of California in these areas. This is a place where you could make a real difference. Please do so. This is great work. It's something to be proud of here, but it's also something to spread the word on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, colleagues, move on. We can move. Anybody? Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a lot for this, just, I think that exactly why we wanted this report card was to have this visual of where we are making progress and where we, like you said, it's not for lack of effort, but there's more to be done. And I think, we're all concerned about in places where kids aren't here, kids aren't feeling connected, or, thank you for continuing to bring it forward. I look forward to talking about it at BEOC again soon. But yeah, we have more work to do, and hopefully at BEOC we'll have sort of an update on here are the things we're doubling down with to move the needle on those things that we haven't. But really good to see the progress that where we're seeing it. Thank you.
It's great that we are making progress, but as the data shows, because you provided a lot more data than what is just there, we still have work to do, and we need to keep the intentional focus, the intentional work, the foot on the pedal. In order to learn, as children must feel safe, and to even have the ability to reach one's full potential, one must feel safe. I remember learning, my diagram back in my teaching credential days, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like 100 years ago, it lays this out, but we don't need the pyramid diagram to inherently know that absent feelings of safety and belonging, our students cannot thrive, and the opportunity gap will remain. Thus, any student not feeling safe in our schools, not feeling that sense of belonging, not having those relationships should be our most pressing focus at this time. And so I'm wondering, based on these results, are we going to see and be presented with some targeted changes and modifications to the SWIFT plan in the near future? Is that going to be part of the discussion?
Yes, it is on the agenda for the BEOC meeting to review and determine any adjustments that need to be made to the plan.
Student board members, or Mr. Schropp, did you have anything? Mr. Collins? No, okay, student board members? Okay, I just wanted to, I think my colleagues hit on the significant points. I just wanted to talk briefly about the report itself as a tool for board oversight. Back in the days, years ago, when we started this, one of the purposes of the SWIFT plan was to make, there was a feeling on the board at that time that everybody talks about equity. Every election season, it's what people talk about. And people get elected, and then nothing ever happens. And so we really felt like the board needed to provide more oversight into the process, not just kind of look at end-of-the-year reports, but really have our finger on the pulse the whole year. And so one of the purposes of the SWIFT plan was to make that oversight more effective by kind of consolidating the relevant reports and the metrics into one place. And so staff was charged with, made the whole SWIFT plan, but after the SWIFT plan with creating a brief report card. And I see this literally as analogous to an actual student report card. Like we could have done an A through F scale. We are using the red, green, blue, perfectly fine. The idea is just like a quick snapshot of how are we doing. But just like that student report card, the grades aren't really helpful without the context. And this is why, in my view, I just want to put this out there that the larger comprehensive data report is it's as critical as that report card, plus the attachments and the backup documentation. I see this as the please see Schoology for grade report detail part of a student's grade report. I mean, I don't think we can do our job in providing oversight without that backup documentation. One of the obvious reasons to me, the most obvious reasons, is that the different demographic groups are consolidated on that one-page report. But that can mask what are at times some huge discrepancies between different groups. I think with climate, that is particularly true. And so we need to be able to, as a board, to dial into that backup documentation to really see what we're looking at. Another reason to me that the larger report is so important is because we can't fit all the metrics on that report card. So a big, obvious one to me with climate is student discipline data. That's not on that report card. If we didn't have it in that larger report, we wouldn't be able to look at that right now. So I just want to put that out there because I recognize, sometimes stuff gets lost in the historical record, and we have to dig through past meetings to see why we did things and what we did, and we're gonna have a brand new board coming on here in less than a year, and it just, a lot of thought goes into that. It's not just sort of a place to put in all the data. That data is literally the information we need to do our job up here. So I just wanted to point that out. And I wanted to make one more plug, and we can talk about this maybe in BEOC, to help the board do our job to consolidate as many equity data points as possible into this agenda item. So for instance, one of the information items on tonight's agenda is the secondary student performance report. That goes directly at the academic report card. So to me, this is a really relevant and important metric for, I don't know why it's not just part of this agenda. I'm fine seeing both report cards. We can see the climate and we can see the academic, and some of them could just say no change since June or whatever. I don't want to micromanage how that works. I'm just saying as a board member, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I find it, I want to talk about it all in one place because the whole point of the SWIFT plan is all of this stuff talks to each other and builds on each other, and that's how you create systemic change, to Ms. Siegel's point. So I want to look at it all at once. I don't want to be combing through past meetings trying to remember what we talked about. So that's just my plug. I'm just one board member. We can bring it up again at VEOC, but I don't know how you guys feel about that. I see some nods over here. Okay, that's it. That's my wonky comment, sorry. All right. Now we are moving on to open forum. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comments, it looks like, so that would be 2 minutes each. We'll start with, okay, wait, I'm gonna start with students. So Ezra Furtada Tiwari and Benjamin Vakil, and then we'll go to Uzma.
Hi. A number of students have asked me whether the after-school in-person multivariable calculus class held at Pali will be held again next year at the same location. Around this time last year, students heard that the status of the multivariable calculus offering from the previous year had changed. So I'm just wondering whether it will be changing again this year, and if not, will the district be putting any information out about this offering? We understand it's not a PAUSD class, but because it is happening on a PAUSD campus and is mostly made up of PAUSD students, we hope that there will be some communication between administration and PAUSD students about it, especially because students deserve to be able to plan out their course schedule for next year in advance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we have Benjamin and then Uzma.
Last semester, I was told here, point blank, that no matter how hard I try, or for that matter, any other of the 289 students who signed our open letter, our efforts to improve our math education will go unacted upon. I would be nonetheless remiss to not relay students' continued interest and concerns in our math education, if not to the board, then to the wider community. I am here to advocate on behalf of our 8th grade students, several of whom have communicated to me their initial excitement in taking geometry honors over the summer, and then their immense disappointment when they found out it was quietly canceled. I find this deeply unfortunate, as I think that that opportunity, if truly embraced, can be an amazing quality opportunity for students to learn and love math at a high level before the responsibilities and stress of high school sets in. I know I wish I had that opportunity. Furthermore, I want to highlight that this was these students' last clear chance to level up in math before college. While there are now allegedly opportunities in high school, they are still impossibly opaque, and we frankly don't know what they entail. We've heard of renewed problem-solving requirements that don't mirror anything we see in course. Although we are at an impasse, I still hope that there will soon be change. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Uzma and then Stephen Davis and then Michelle Higgins.
Great. Hi, I've lived in Palo Alto for a long time. I have kids who have gone through the school district. I stand before you not just as a proud parent, but also as an advocate for the inclusion of the ethnic studies course as a requirement in our high schools. I first want to thank the board for their past DEI initiatives. I was actually really excited when I got to hear the Fletcher update, actively recruiting for diversity in our admin and staff and our library books is essential in making sure all our students' views are respected and included. I have a personal story that underscores the importance of fostering understanding and empathy among our diverse student body. I was going through, as an adult, working at a tech company here in Silicon Valley, a period of Islamophobia directed at me in various instances. I was fortunate enough to find support in an unexpected place through my manager at work, who was also openly gay. He shared with me his own struggles for acceptance and recognition during his time at Berkeley, navigating the challenges faced by the LGBTQ community, even at a university known for its liberal values. He told me he was physically attacked on campus due to his sexual orientation, a hate crime. In that moment, a powerful connection was forged, transcending our different backgrounds and experiences. It highlighted the common ground we shared as members of marginalized communities, and it made me realize the potential for understanding and unity when we take the time to listen and learn from one another. It's my hope for our district and for all of us that ethnic studies will be a course that represents these values, that acts as that bridge to understanding, rooted in justice and equality, a unique opportunity to learn. Our student body represents many different religions, cultures, and backgrounds. Every single one of them deserves to feel safe, to feel heard, to feel empowered, to embrace their identity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Michelle Higgins, and then our last commentator is Nicole Chu Wang. Oh, I'm sorry, I did. I'm sorry, the student thing is, they're in the middle instead of, confuse me. Okay, yes. Stephen Davis, then Michelle Higgins, then Nicole Chu Wang.
I am asking for your collective and individual help in getting the word out on ABLE accounts. There are probably between 200 and 300 disabled students in Palo Alto Unified School District who are eligible for these accounts. ABLE accounts provide 1, protection for access to U.S. disability services, 2, a savings and investment tool that works like a Roth IRA. And 3, immediate use for a wide range of services, including housing, supports, and education. This program is almost a secret. It is 10 years old with 8 million eligible people. Anyone who qualifies who has a substantial disability before they turn 26, yet there are only 151,000 accounts as of last year. That's 1.9% of the eligible people. 1, please host an annual presentation on this to all special education families. When I talk to people personally, they go, what? It's really important. 2, if any of you, groups, individuals know individuals or groups that can help get the word out or may be eligible, please spread the word yourselves or let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Higgins, Nicole Chu Wong.
Thank you. I want to take this moment to thank our Santa Clara County Board of Education for recently passing the resolution recognizing sustained peace and safety for all children. I'm not aware of any formal acknowledgement of this resolution by PAUSD, and if that's happened, I apologize. I just haven't heard. I particularly want to highlight that the County Board resolved to call for a ceasefire and affirms the American Academy of Pediatrics policy statement, including harm to children should never be used as a tool or tactic of war or conflict. Children should be protected from the direct effects of armed conflicts and their food, housing, health, and other basic needs safeguarded. In the past 130 days, 12,300 Palestinian children have been killed in Gaza. That number is larger than the total enrollment for PAUSD schools, larger than the population of our 19 schools, 2 high schools, 3 middle schools, 12 elementary schools, plus our TK and other programs. Real children, loved and cherished just like our own, lost forever. Further, there are an estimated 25,000 children left orphaned in Gaza, and it's estimated over 1,000 children have undergone amputations, some without anesthesia. Indeed, Gaza has been identified as the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. Our community is hurting in many directions, but the pain, fear, and worry experienced by our Palestinian families in PAUSD, along with our MENA and Muslim families, is unspeakable, crushing, and more so because it is so rarely acknowledged. I believe this resolution is an important step in the right direction. I hope that even if you're not willing to formally endorse it as a board, that it will be shared with our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Chu Wong.
Good evening. As you know, I'm the executive director of Dreamcatchers, and we operate an after-school program that serves almost 200 students across our 3 middle schools in Palo Alto. Tonight, I wanted to talk about Challenge Day that just happened yesterday at Green. Special thanks to Assistant Principal Brooke Tassa and Principal Benavides. I was invited to participate as an adult volunteer, where they're doing 3 challenge days with about 100 students each, and it was incredibly impactful. And in the words of Challenge Day, what they do is they have a day-long experiential learning workshop where participants experience powerful love and belonging, connect across lines of difference, and move toward creating the culture they want in their schools. I couldn't help leaving that day feeling incredibly hopeful that these students found a sense of belonging and are hopefully going to change the culture in their schools. But at the same time, because Dreamcatchers is at all 3 of our schools, and these 8th graders are going to be in high school together very soon, I also felt a lot of sadness that our students at Fletcher and JLS are not going to have the same experience. That although I know our school district values a shared language when it comes to the SEL experienced by our elementary school students, the same thing is not happening in middle school. And so, although I know it isn't the board's purview to dictate to the middle schools what they should do, I know from the ad hoc committee recommendations in 2022 that they said they would appreciate leadership from this board about what should be done. And I certainly know that you all appreciate that they should speak the same language and have the same understanding of how to support themselves. And as Board Member Siegel said herself tonight, the importance of a sense of belonging is paramount to being able to thrive in school, both academically and as a sense of community. So I would urge you to encourage the middle schools, JLS and Fletcher, to bring challenge data to their schools so that their students can have the same experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval of the consent calendar. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Student board member preferential vote. Colleagues, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no comments on either one.
I apologize.
Pause.
It's just been a test for you tonight, isn't it, Jesse? Oh, excuse me, I brought a prop.
Oh, no.
Won't take long. Two things. One, real quick on the classified staff. There were 3 special education hires, 6 special education resignations, and 1 other behavioral support resignation. I hope at some point we're going to get a serious discussion about churn data in general and for special education in particular. On 5I, that is the contract performance for the Department of Rehabilitation. There is no data on the current contract performance, and this provides education and training for students, mostly those with disabilities, even though the contract is projected to grow from $300K to $500K. Reason I've got a prop, been reading a delightful book called 22 Cents an Hour about the fight to end the subminimum wage. I don't know if you know this, but people with disabilities actually have no legal minimum wage in the United States. That is 0. And there are people who get paid comically little. It is a very interesting and depressing book. And it's true in many states. And there are still places in California, including one in Redwood City. There is a special education to subminimum wage pipeline that basically puts students with disabilities on a track to either subminimum wage jobs or very low expectation jobs. I would like the district to pull this item, review the current contract performance before we make a call on how we're educating our disabled students going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Should we move on? Should we just do the whole process again? Okay. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So, I mean, it was, okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Do we want to discuss? Misty Brandon? No. Okay. Student preferential vote. Colleagues?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, consent calendar is approved. No items on for action, so we'll move to discussion. 2024-2025 draft budget assumptions.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Ms. Chow.
All right, thank you, Dr. Austin. So tonight's item is our first draft of the budget assumptions for the 24-25 school year. And I want to start off with a quick overview of our budget development process. Currently, district leaders and stakeholders are evaluating existing budget items and reviewing them, giving them careful thought as to their how, the why, and the efficacy of our existing programs prior to rolling them over into the budget development process. Items that staff have recommended will be put into the budget assumptions document and then brought before the board in April for final approval before moving forward to our actual budget. As far as staffing expenditures, these accuracy has improved greatly with the implementation of our position control. And when it comes to salary increases, I just wanted to mention that these are not budgeted currently for 24-25. Our process is that we are currently meeting with our partners in CSEA and PAAA when we come to an agreement with both of our unions, and after it comes to the board for ratification, at that time is when we put those any salary schedule increases into the budget. What is included in the budget is step and column increases for all classifications of employees, and any salary increases that have previously been negotiated are included in the budget development as well as the multi-year projections. Also, just to put out some information so that this is on your radar, any state budget decisions as well as changes in the state economy, there's a likelihood that those will impact the district's budget as well. Some of the updates that we have included in this first draft are the state cost of living adjustment, which is, more widely known as the COLA. It's currently estimated at 0.76%. So we will keep a watch on that and keep that number current for you. Currently, the property tax growth for our district is at 5.68%. That's a growth in assessed valuation. That was, it says in here on the slide as of November 23. We met on Monday, yesterday, and that number is still the same as unchanged. So it's actually current as of February 11th. We have in our budget the school discretionary allocation. This is the per student allocation at $115 per student for 24-25. And just a note that that amount will drop to $85 per student in 25-26. So that will be reflected in our multi-year projection. In terms of utility rates, I think we all have felt those in our own personal home utility rates. So we have a 20% for electricity, gas, water, waste, and sewer services, and 10% for the telephone and internet. Our medical insurance rate increase is estimated at 7%. Although we won't know our actual rates until much later. They usually come out in June. Our student enrollment is projected to decline in the current year. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because there are some allocations of revenue in terms of grants or some of our restricted funds that are calculated based on a ADA or a per student number. So those will be impacted as our enrollment and our ADA changes. Staffing at all sites is based on the projected decline in enrollment, and we are currently meeting with our principals to discuss staffing levels and projected numbers for the sites for next year. Today we met, the team met with the secondary sites, and the elementary sites are scheduled for early March. I believe it's March 5th and March 7th. In regards to our newest program, the middle PAUSD, Middle College High School program, we're very excited about this and how we are budgeting it for the coming year is we are budgeting it to be budget neutral. And as we, as we enroll students and as we staff up for that program, we will make any necessary adjustments, but just to know it is budget neutral at this time. When we look at the CalSTRS and CalPERS employer contribution rates, there is an increase to CalPERS. You'll see that increase is climbing up. It's just under 30%, and the increase over the current year is a little over 1%. And that concludes the updates to our budget assumptions document. It will be coming to the board in March as well. And then, as I mentioned before, back in April for board approval before being rolled into the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I do not believe Mr. Davis, do you have a comment on this item? Okay, then we don't have any public comments on this item. Colleagues, anyone? All right. Student board members?
I just had a question on the discretionary allocations and like where or why it was $30 more from 2018 to 19 to next year.
That is a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. We had an agreement based on PAEA agreement back in, I want to say 17, 18, it was for 6 years, that they would support an increase to the student allocation of $30. So the base previously was $85 per student. That increase brought it to the $115 that, we have currently and have had for the last few years. But it does revert back to the $85 per student in that year. Thank you.
Okay, nothing for us to vote on, so move on to California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly Election. I don't think there's a staff presentation on this, is there? It's just were you sure you want to take it? Okay.
Did you prepare the profiles for each?
I actually have a plan for this.
Okay.
So you are the plan. All right, so yes, the staff's recommendation is that we review the ballot materials and determine which candidates to vote for. And last year, Ms. Siegel graciously volunteered to review and make recommendations to us, and I'm hoping she's willing to do the same this year.
I am willing and eager to do the same this year. But in order to make an informed decision, the candidate speeches will be delivered on February 28th. So I propose we select the 4 candidates at our board meeting March 12th. There are 5 candidates and we will be selecting 4, but I gotta hear the speeches.
This is why that's why it's the perfect plan, right? Yes, all right, so the deadline's March 15th, so we should have time to make our deadline. Okay, so we will bring this back, agenda setting, which is also us, for the March 15th meeting for action. Okay, yeah, thank you. All right, now we're moving on to information items. Any public comments? No, Mr. Davis? No, okay, this is just gonna be my plan from now on, so I don't keep missing you. Okay, colleagues, any comments? Ms. Siegel.
I just had a question on the stated practice of no mark as NM. And so the stated practice of it, if I'm understanding it correctly, is it's for a student who does not complete enough work to be given a mark. Is that correct as stated now?
That is correct.
Okay. And so I'm wondering about the students who have submitted their work, but their work, like quality, or their work has earned a D or an F, thus resulting in a D or an F grade. And so I'm wondering if this practice might be too narrow, and hope that the leadership team might look into expanding that definition, because if we're offering this opportunity to students who did not complete the work, that we should be considering offering it to students who did complete it. It just was at the D or an F level. So there was that one question. And then the other one is, I was wondering, do all elementary school students have access to iReady at home? Because accessibility to these tech tools at home is helpful for all students, especially our students with special needs. So can someone answer that?
So it is, unless you want to speak, Ms. Brown?
Yes, they all have access at home through their portal. Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I think just regular and consistent communication about that, including how a parent can access that or the student can access that, is great. Where to find it once they log in. Perhaps if we're not already doing it, regular emails and in the Friday folders, just to make sure that all students and parents are aware, because it's a great tool that students can be using at home. That is all.
Can I just add to that? So just for your information, I think that came up at the CAC meeting.
Yes, that's why I was
just recently, and there were at least one parent there, maybe more, who didn't know about that. And so, and especially, you know, if parents, I mean, I think special needs parents are probably maybe more alert than, or have to be engaged. And so if that engaged parent couldn't find it, then I'm sure there are lots of parents who would benefit it. So it's, you know, we're paying for it. Kids have it. It's great. I think it's great to, if we can figure out a way to let kids know more, parents know more that, hey, this is there for you. So thank you.
Anyone else? Colleagues? Student board members?
A brief question regarding the no mark, no credit thing. If there is no negative impact on the GPA for these no marks and no credits, and it's just like, if you didn't do enough work, isn't it better for students to just do not enough work to get that no credit than to actually like do the work? It seems a little bit strange to me. Yeah, like as a student, it seems strange to me that someone who's going to be putting in the effort is going to be unfairly penalized. I don't know if there's any like rationale behind it that anyone can tell me.
So actually, our secondary schools, or mainly our high schools, are having the conversation regarding the no mark and no credit. But regarding that, essentially, it's up to the teacher's discretion to apply that, as Ms. Siegel mentioned, and it's something that we're going to continue to have those conversations, because ultimately the students, if they do not take advantage of the no mark and it remains in the transcript, by the time it's time to apply for university, it's still considered an F. So it's essential for them to get it done and complete it and replace the class or take a makeup class to replace the grade.
Yeah, my understanding is like a placeholder that you have to sort of deal with eventually.
Right, but like if you got like a C or D naturally, do you get that opportunity to make it up?
So last time we talked about this report, if you guys remember, there was it was just my comment tonight, there was a giant difference in demographic groups between who was given a no mark and a chance to make it up and who was given a D or an F. And surprise, surprise, those broke pretty solidly along racial lines. So we've improved. We're still seeing some significant gaps. So, which is back to my previous point about why I think this should have been discussed when we were talking about the SWIFT plan. But that's exactly the point of doing this report, is to get us to look at that data and make sure that, because it's at teacher's discretion, to make sure that the discretion is being equitably applied, I would say. So, yeah. Anybody else? Okay. With that, then I think we're done, yeah?
Board operations, my favorite part.
I knew it. Okay, board operations. Look at you guys are all like, we want to talk about board operations. They're just like, they're so eager. They're so eager. Okay, go, 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 board operations.
I mean, Dr. Austin actually mentioned it in his Friday update last week, but the Pally Gun basketball games were amazing. There were huge crowds from each school. Everyone was positive. Everyone was cheering. It was a bunch of them were great games. It was a great time. So I am grateful to our staff who worked it, students who came and cheered on, our players who played. It was great. The gunplay, Then There Were Nuns, was amazing. And to see, staff come out and help the choirs from the middle school, the students who put it on, really, it was a huge, very quick turnaround time. But that was a lot of fun too. It was a great performance. And some of us went to the Challenge Success Luncheon last week. Miss Light America was there. And I believe Miss Conway had a whole crew there from PAUSD. And it was just it's such a good partnership for us. And the speaker was so inspiring and so spot on in identifying the difference between stress isn't bad, right? And we've talked about this a lot, right? Stress isn't bad, but really focusing on how you deal with that stress, how your stress tolerance, and whether you have some good habits that are productive or whether they're destructive, and really reframing our conversation with our kids around screens, reframing with how they spend their time, what is a waste of time and what is, not. It was really great. I wish everyone had been able to hear her talk. It's Lisa D'Amour, and she's got several books out that people have probably read, but I highly recommend them if you haven't. And it was just a great way to spend an afternoon. That's all.
One of the things that was really interesting to me about that speaker was she talked, the students actually who were on the panel made some comments about infrastructure changes that had been made at their school to help with stress. And I was listening going, yeah. So they talked about block schedules in replacing the previous 7 classes in a day. They talked about earlier start times or later start times. And they talked about built-in time to do homework, which is prime and advisory. So I'm listening to them, yeah, we have all of those, check, check, check. So it was a good reminder that, we've done some of the structural, that mental health and stress is sort of a very broad spectrum of things impact that, and it was nice to be a reminder that we've done some of the infrastructure things. It was also a heavier reminder when these students were talking about their schools and the things that they wished would change. That was another reminder of, yeah, we also still have work to do around. One of them talked about just the pressure of college and that being sort of the focus and how to remove that change so that wasn't the only focus. It was so many decisions being made about that, yeah. And kids she talked specifically about the pressure to do a whole bunch of stuff to look good as opposed to stuff that you want to do, which was heartbreaking, but a good reminder.
The Pally Gun basketball game, which has been discussed, but I just wanted to highlight, I spent some time on both sides, and it was excellent sportsmanship the entire time on both sides. So that was in addition to the amazing players out there. There was also amazing students in the stands. And I'm still smiling from, and then there were nuns. It was 2 hours of incredible singing, dancing, and joy. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Liberatore. It was 28 years ago he inspired me. He was one of the teachers that inspired me to go into teaching. And he really inspired me again. They had 4 weeks. I was thinking while I was sitting there, how many months have they been working on this show? Because there are so many people, and then we have middle school and we have high school, and it was only in 4 weeks. And I also want to give a big shout out to the teachers, to the staff, and the administration who participated in this production. I whispered to the person next to me, wow, the principal has such an incredible voice. And I found out it was not actually, it was actually the video. And but that's how great they were, is I'm like, our administrators can also sing. But there were a lot of staff and teachers who were singing, and it hits me that students, if I feel more connected watching these staff and administrators perform, I know that students feel more connected watching their own teachers and their staff perform, and it's extra time out of the day. So I just want to give a big shout out to every teacher and staff and administrator who participated. It was very much fun. That is all. I